Thanks for joining us. This is our extended interview about law firm cybersecurity with Tom Lambat, the founder of Global Mac IT and Bobaguard. The first part of this video is from our GNGF Live, which happens every other Wednesday over on our Facebook page. The second part here is this bonus extended interview where we dive into specific challenges Tom has seen law firms struggle with when it comes to managing their cybersecurity, and more importantly, how you can overcome those challenges. If you already saw the live, I'll put a timestamp to the exclusive extended interview below. And of course, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can follow along with all of our great conversations on legal marketing and the business side of running a law firm. Welcome to GNGF Live, your bi-weekly Ask the Experts about all things law firm marketing and business growth. I'm Mark Homer, author of Online Law Practice Strategies and founder of Get Noticed, Get Found. On this show, we focus on the business side of growing and running your law firm, so I'm excited to have today's guest, Tom Lambat, founder of Global Mac IT and Bobaguard. Tom has spent over 16 years providing technology consulting and managed services for law firms. And over those 16 years, Tom was on the front lines and has seen firsthand the rapid change in legal technology needs and use in the legal profession. With more and more use of technology, one area that is quickly increasing in importance for law firms is cybersecurity. Unfortunately, cybersecurity is often misunderstood, so we brought Tom here to help separate fear from reality. And of course, before we get started though, a quick reminder to like and subscribe to the page, not just the video, so you can get updated when our next episode goes live. Of course, it never hurts for you to show just a little love and go ahead and hit that like button on the video too. It really helps our show get discovered by other law firm owners. Of course, we've got moderators in the chat, so please ask questions and interact anytime during this premiere. And if you're watching this in the future, after the premiere, we do monitor the comments and we'll reach out to our guest and answer any follow-up questions you have. That's because we love you all and we love getting to meet you online. And I'm excited to say, in person again a little bit soon. You can find a list of all of our upcoming webinars, CLEs, and other events we're speaking at our website, gngf.com/events. We have an extensive library of videos, including our extended interviews on our in-depth GNGF tip series, as well as full workshop replays like building a better legal lead funnel and much, much more over on our YouTube channel. So you can watch those videos and you can even download the free legal lead funnel workbook, well, after this interview, of course, at the link in the chat. All right, let's get to the interview. Tom Lambat, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Mark. I'm stoked to be here.
Awesome. So, I told everybody we're having you on here to talk about cybersecurity. And I think, the term cybersecurity is pretty loaded. It can mean a lot of things. But you spent 16 years now, right, running and helping law firms with their technology and managed services. Obviously, interesting, a niche, just you work with law firms that just use Macs. So, but what does cybersecurity mean? Or maybe more importantly, what should it mean, right, for a law firm owner?
Cybersecurity should really be considered as a multi-layered approach. I mean, it's how do you reduce your risk from cyber threats, right? From getting hacked. I mean, law firms have all the good stuff. It makes sense for, their clients to be as efficient as they can when they're giving their information. So they give, kind of the condensed, best information, which has, tons of HIPAA information, social security number, bank account, trade secrets, right? All kinds of different, all the good stuff. And so law firms are being targeted, nationwide, globally, whether, before they used to be really just the big law firms, but now it's moved down to, solo, small, mid-sized law firms. Like no one is, protected or safe. And so cybersecurity is, what are the security protections I can put into place to protect my clients' data and my firm's data from the bad actors out there that are trying to get us.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was doing a CLE not long ago, and we were talking about some of the professional rules of ethics and stuff, right? And like many states have actually added that whole competence, and they've included relevant technology and security and these kind of things. So it's not just hey, protect your firm. This is like in professional rules of conduct. Say this is critically important with the rise of technology. So. I have to, ask this, essentially the big question is how can a lawyer protect themselves? But I really kind of want to know, what's that one thing they can do? And by the way, this is somebody who hates hearing this question as a marketer because people always ask me like, what's the one marketing thing you can do, right? But like, is there kind of like one big thing that somebody should focus on?
Yes and no. my favorite answer. The one thing, just like you said, oh, is it Facebook ads? Is it, the problem with a one thing answer is that it usually goes directly to a tactic, and it overlooks having a strategy, right? And so my one thing when it comes to cybersecurity is not just one solution, like, oh, do 2FA or, use a password manager. The one thing is really the layered security approach. And that's kind of my trick response to bypassing the one thing, question. But imagine you're buying a car and the salesperson is like, hey, Mark, what is the one security feature that you want in the minivan you're purchasing, for your wife to lug around all your kids?
Yeah, I mean,
Crazy, right?
yeah, I mean,
You'd
one
be like,
security feature.
I want all the things. I want, every safety feature we can get, right? And so, the multi-layered security approach is the one thing. It has to be multiple things. If you think of the classic heist, movies, The Italian Job and what's the other one? Ocean's 11, right? And all
Yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
movies, it's got multiple layers that they have to go through and they plan. And so if it's only one layer, right, get through the door locks and you're in, it wouldn't make a good movie. It
Very
would be
short
over
movie
too
for sure.
quickly. It would be a very short movie. And the problem is that most lawyers, try to find that one thing. It's like, oh, I'm going to turn on two-factor authentication on a couple accounts, so I'm good, or hey, I have full disk encryption enabled on my computer, so I'm safe. And they believe that having a single security protection in place is going to protect them, and that's flawed thinking.
So, if a lawyer is then, looking at all these multiple steps, like these layers, these security layers, what are all these different steps that they should be worrying about? Or what's going to entail?
Yeah, and it's hard because you go out there and you Google law firm security. I think I did this just for fun a little while back, and I got or cybersecurity solutions, and I got 347 million results on Google. In 0.61 seconds. So the problem is that the market is flooded with solutions, with cybersecurity solutions. So the challenge you run into is, okay, what do I need? And so kind of an analogy that I use is kind of when I got out of college and I had no tools, and all of a sudden I needed some tools. So I ran out to Walmart and I bought the college price, set of tools, the cheapest set of tools I could use. It was great at the time because all of a sudden I had a hammer, and now I didn't have to use the hardest thing I could find, like an empty bottle of vodka to try to hammer a nail or something, which I don't recommend, and I've never actually done, but that just popped in my head here. So finding out, what are the tools that you need, right? So in a basic tool set, you need a hammer, you need a Phillips, you need a flathead, you need pliers, right? Different things. So what you need to do, for your practice is say, okay, what are the key tools that I should be looking to fill, right? What do I need? Just like when you're looking for software for your firm,
Hmm.
what are the specific tactics? Okay, case management software, bookkeeping software, contact management, email, right? So you define what are those tools, and then once you define what the tools are that you need, then the next step is to find the best version of the tool for your needs,
Right.
right? So for email, nowadays it's easy. It's 365 or G Suite, right? For 95% of people. For case management software, the list is getting longer and longer, but, people have their go-to and their preferred solutions. So it's kind of that approach that I recommend is like, okay, based on, my kind of threat landscape, right? So I'm a solo or I'm a small law firm. They're going to take a different approach than a big law firm when it comes to cybersecurity. They're going to have a completely different budget. So they need to figure out what are the things I need to protect myself, from, find out what are the tools they need. Then they need to find, a tool that's going to fit their need really well.
Got it. So, what are these security layers then? So it's like it's one thing to say here's how to go about finding these tools and that kind of stuff. And that makes sense of that there are layers, and we need to know that there's different layers depending on your size and budget and stuff. But what are the security layers that you recommend?
Yeah, so we recommend we have about 8 or 9, depending on the day, usually about 8. And so the first one is cybersecurity training. I think that's absolutely essential. People are the one of the biggest weakness, leading to data breaches. It's not breaching a firewall, it's not ransomware, it's people. And so, the way, viruses get onto a computer are typically through people, right? Sometimes there
Right.
are misconfigurations or, weaknesses in the firewall that's not properly configured. But as we've moved more and more away from having in-house servers, that's not the primary threat. End users are the primary threat, especially when, you look at COVID and all of a sudden, we had, I don't know the numbers, right? 1,200% increase in remote workers, right? Everyone's working from home. Cyber criminals are savvy to that. They know when you're busy. They know when your kids are getting hungry in the afternoon and you're trying to wrap up. And, just like, for marketing, with your business, the best days to run a webinar, the best days to send an email to get a maximum open rate, right? Well,
Right.
cyber criminals study the same things. They study human psychology. They know when we're the most distracted. They know when we've had decision fatigue in the afternoon, so we're more likely to click on a phishing email. So I'm going on a big tangent, but cybersecurity training is layer number one. So you have to arm, educate, and train every person on the team, including the owner. A lot of times the owner thinks that they are not going to fall for it, right? I've talked to many tech experts. There's one specific that I'm sure it's a household name in the legal industry. And he interviewed me for a podcast. That afternoon, he fell for a phishing scheme and he gave up his 365 credentials, right? He shared it with me and he's like, I'm tech savvy. I never thought it would happen to me, but it did, right? So everyone needs cybersecurity training. The second cybersecurity layer we recommend is simulated phishing. We're all getting phishing emails. It's a never-ending stream. Everyone knows they've been getting better and better, right? The ones from Apple. Now they have real logos. They're written in well-written English, right? All these different details, and they're really good at faking you out. So simulated phishing sends out, test emails from your domain to find out, hey, who in the firm's going to fall for this? Who's going to click on a link? Right? Who's going to actually enter their credentials? And then as soon as that happens, that's an opportunity to do some remediation training, right? It's not a time for a lecture, but it's like, hey, just so you know, you clicked on this. And if you clicked on this one, it's likely you click on another one. So cybersecurity training, simulated phishing. So, a few of the layers are really just arming and educating, right? That's kind of one big step. Another one is putting in the tools, kind of automatic tools that are going to protect your firm. So on your computers running, making sure you've got a tool that's keeping the software up to date, right? Security updates, Apple or Windows updates, and then third-party software. It's very common for people just to hit ignore. They get scared. They've had a bad update, right? That they're like, ooh, they're worried about doing that, but that's a really important, easy step. Running virus, software as well, malware, scanning removal tools is another layer. Backing up your critical data, right? So 365 G Suite, everything you've got in there. Do you have a backup of your, core file storage solution that you're using? Is another important layer that's easy to activate. It's easy to do, and a lot of these are easy to do, but they're also easy not to do. But most of the reason people don't do them is they're not aware that these solutions exist, and if they do, it's usually pretty hard to get access to them
Hmm.
because they have minimum user counts or they're sold only through kind of channels, right? So through that you have to buy through an IT provider, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I'm going to stop there. That's about
So,
half the layers.
interesting. You brought up a couple things I wanted to follow up on because this is something that I think a lot of people when we talk about these topics and yeah, everybody thinks like that hacker, right, is like somebody in. I think there's still this idea that it's somebody in, somebody's kid in the basement just kind of like randomly hacking and looking for stuff. But like this whole industry has changed to be like basically like organized crime, organized groups. Like, because you mentioned this idea of like they're studying this stuff, they're learning, they are organized. Talk a little bit about that because I think it's a big misnomer out there.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great, it's a great idea. Like you said, and I kid around. I say most people think it's, some guy living in his mom's basement, with Cheetos in his beard, playing video games and hacking with his downtime, right? But that's completely false, right? It's organized crime. They work a 9 to 5. They wear suits and ties. They dress up. They have KPIs. They have core things they focus on, right? Every quarter, every month, they've got metrics to hit. They track open rates. They study human behavior. They read Robert Cialdini, Influence and Persuasion and all these different books, that entrepreneurs and businesses and lawyers read and study. They do the same thing, and they are well funded, and they do not have to follow the rules,
Right.
right? So it's and they're leveraging the technologies the same way we are, right? You
Right.
look at the progress the legal industry has made in the past 10 years with adopting the cloud. They've made massive shifts in progress. And the same thing with hackers, right? They're using AI now to hit 10,000 law firms in a day. Now before they used to have to focus on just big law, and they'd put a lot of time and energy into big specific, targets. Now they don't need to do that. They can say, hey, I just bought 3 million sets of credentials and logins from the web, through the dark web, through a data breach from Netflix or whatever it was. I'm going to go to work, and today I'm going to try to see how many accounts I can get into. So yeah, it's extremely organized.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting point, right? It's to just remind people and think about. I mean, so what Tom is saying here is, like Amazon Web Services and cloud services, all these things that have helped us as business owners and law firm owners and stuff, have actually also helped these organized hacking groups. So that's an interesting point, right? I mean, so that they're just as benefited and armed as we are in terms of like a lot of the benefits of cloud technology. So on the other thing you talked about, like the phishing attacks, I've seen like examples from different bar associations and stuff talking about, but like they use the term spear phishing or something like that, where it's like they're targeting to the actual industry, right? They know lawyers care about like a CLE, for example, right? It's like, hey, your CLE, whatever, you have to click here to enter your credentials, and somebody's just like, well, yeah, CLE. Oh my gosh, I have to get that in by the 2 days from now, and they know that, and like it's a crazy what they're doing out there.
Yeah, one of the craziest for me that I like to talk about is business email compromise. So in the old days when your email account was hacked, the biggest thing you had to worry about that was pretty embarrassing was Viagra offers going out to everyone in your address book, right? Nowadays, that's not what happens though. When people get into your email account, they sit there and they wait. They read your sent folders. They read your inbox. They go, hey, what's Mark actively been working on right now? Are there any deals Mark is going to be closing anytime soon, right? You got to think everything is also indexed in your email. So they know the terms to look for, right? Password. That one time you sent your password to someone else and you say, hey, delete the email when you get it, right? Boom, they're going to hit password. They're going to hit PW because you didn't want to write out password, so you put PW instead. They're going to put SSN, right? Social security number, routing number, right? Account information. So they're able to search for everything. And then they sit there and they wait. Vern Harnish, the author of Scaling Up, he lost $40,000 in a transaction like that. He was traveling in Germany. He was presenting. So they knew that. The people in his email account saw he had a real estate closing coming up. And, they sent an email from him to their assistant. And they said, hey, go ahead and wire the money. We're ready to go. Here's the routing info. She did it. Or I think he did it, something like that. But anyways, they knew he was busy. They knew there was a deal coming. Boom, they swapped out the routing information. Money's gone. No way to get it back.
Crazy. Yeah. I mean, and that's that I mean, like, this is an organized group. So it brings me to my next question then. How much of cybersecurity is like the software and hardware things that we implement and put on, machines and stuff, versus how much is like training and process?
I think it's shifted a lot. 10 years ago, the focus was, firewalls and protection, and you've got to harden your network and doing all these things and make sure, of course, virus software. But now you've got so many different ways for them to get in. And again, the focus, if you want to get into a building, you're going to find the weakest point in the building. The weakest point, in businesses are humans. They are the end users, right? It's very easy for them to be spearphished, or they get into one account, they send an email to someone else on the team. All of a sudden you get an email from your assistant, nothing out of the ordinary. You reply, boom, right? We had a case a few months ago. One of our clients, someone he went through a training course with me a couple years ago, and he's like he had rescheduled 3 times with me to actually talk about Bobaguard because he knew he wanted to get security protection in place, but he kept pushing it off because he was too busy. And then all of a sudden last October, he's like, Tom, check this out. And he forwards me this email, and it was an email from his opposing counsel of a matter they were working on right now. So it was live, active, timely. And it said, hey, here's a file, go ahead and open it. And it seemed kind of different. So he replied, he said, no, I'd rather if you just send me the file directly. A minute later, he got a reply saying, no, I assure you the emails, the file's fine. It's secure to your email. Go ahead and open it. Right. So there's an active two-way conversation.
Yeah.
In real time that he's having with his opposing counsel, but it's actually someone sitting in his account trying to get in.
Wow.
Right. And so he realized it. And then he looked back. He's like, man, this opposing counsel is a two-lawyer law firm just like mine. And so he just realized, he's like, this could happen to anyone at any time. And again, they're, him and his partner, they're younger, they're tech savvy, but they realize, like, they count on you being off your game. They know it's going to happen. It's just a numbers game, right? It's like the old 90s, kind of sales approach. It's like, hey, just pick up the phone. It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So
that's crazy. So, a lot to think about, right? So, but let's talk about the risks, right? What are some of the risks? I'm sure you've seen a lot of this firsthand in your 16 years doing this in technology. So what are some of the risks of not taking the cybersecurity serious enough?
Yeah, all it takes is one data breach, and the pain is massive. And I think a big problem with the pain is that when we hear headlines, the examples are always like, the average data breach costs, $2.8 million. And so I think those do a huge disservice to small businesses, because as soon as you hear that, you go, okay, well, that's not going to happen to me. My revenues are 650,000, right? Or 1.8 million, or, you're nowhere close to that. And so we've become desensitized to the threat, right? The headlines are about Home Depot and 40 million, or Yahoo and a billion, sets of credentials being hit. And, the financial impact is always in, the mega millions. But there's other, research that shows, for small businesses, the average impact is like $130,000. That's
real
a lot
money.
closer to home.
Yeah.
Right. That's a ton of money. Right. The average, 60% of businesses go out within 6 months after experiencing a data breach because they can't handle the impact. One of my clients, they've been with us for about 3-4 years. Right before they signed on, we had met through a strategic coach actually, and they were like, okay, everything's ready to go. Let's do it. And then they disappeared. And I'm like, what happened? And then they popped back up 3 months later and they said, hey, sorry, we got hit with a data breach.
Oh, no.
Right before. They almost had funds transferred from their trust account to an account in Hong Kong. They were just barely able to stop it, but they had to go through all the data breach steps. So filing a notice of a data breach with the DA, sending a letter out to every single person. And this is not just to your clients and your previous clients. It's also to your prospects. It's every contact in your database. So we're talking judges, we're talking opposing counsel, right? Referral sources. Every person is getting this letter saying, hey, your data might have been compromised or was compromised in this way. And so he gave me just a blistering, detailed account of what he went through. He's like, Tom, it's brutal. He's like, you can't imagine the carnage. They were a personal injury firm. The phone stopped ringing completely. He told me, he's like, yeah, the fees were expensive for dealing with it all, but the real money was lost on the back end. He's like, Tom, we lost easily $500,000 in revenue just from cases not coming in, the phone not ringing. The two biggest things the two biggest things of value, from talking to lawyers over 16 years is reputation and their depth of experience, right? In whatever field that they're in. And so, a blow like this is a direct blow to your reputation, right?
Right.
Clients hire you because they trust that your information will be secure with them. And so that's really the cost. And the sad thing is, so many lawyers still don't get it. Like they still think I'm too small. It's not going to happen to me. I'm in Oklahoma. I'm in family law. Therefore, I'm not at risk.
So you had a statistic that we talked about in the past. Like there's like law firm. Like there's a decent chunk of law firms that this happens to.
29% of law firms have experienced a data breach.
So almost a third.
According to a third. So again, imagine one calling, imagine a second, one of you three has had a data breach, right? And that's gone up, that's based on the ABA Tech report that comes out every year, and that's consistently gone up 3%
Wow.
every year. So it's not going in the right direction, right? And they show all the statistics of like, hey, you've got all these things available, but the adoption rate is still so low just on the basics, let alone actually, making use of some of these advanced, technologies and security solutions that are available to them.
So we're running out of time on the Facebook portion here, and so I want to still ask you a ton of questions. So hopefully you'll stick around. But I really want to ask this because I think based on all your passion and knowledge around this, but I think I already know the answer. But I mean, you've been doing global Mac IT successfully for 16 plus years, right? Like just doing managed services and technology consulting for law firms that have Macs. Why the kind of recent switch and focus on launching Bobaguard?
Yeah, so it's a big shift. Bobaguard is not Mac only, right? So it's a big shift kind of away from the Macs. I mean, it still supports the Mac users, but it really just came out of realizing, the need for something like this. Over the past 16 years, I always took the time to meet with lawyers, even if they're solos or small firms. Essentially the smaller the firm, the more likely they are to use Macs, right? So I met with hundreds of lawyers who I ultimately had to say, I'm sorry, we have a 10 user minimum, you're too small. And I always went out of my way to provide value, to give them actionable steps, because most people just want to know what to do,
Right.
when they're reaching out looking for help. And what I ultimately realized was that what they really need now is different from what they needed 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was more about the tech setup and like, hey, what should I be using?
Right.
But that's gotten a lot easier, right? You can set up your whole firm in one afternoon nowadays, set up 365, integrate it with Clio, get Box for file sharing, and you're pretty much up and running.
Yep.
10 years ago, that was unheard of. But what's gotten more and more complicated over the years is the cybersecurity. And so many people, what I realize, they don't know where to start. They don't understand the threats and the real risk. And so, I started feeling really guilty about turning them away. And I was like, man, how can I help them? Because I couldn't go to just doing hourly IT consulting work. It would have been too much of a headache to kind of manage. And so one day it hit me. I was like, man, what they really need and what they kept asking for was really security recommendations and advice. And so I started Googling around, and I was shocked that there is no other company out there that has created a solution specifically targeted for the 10 and under firms. Right. So most IT companies have, curated security stacks. That's nothing new. I didn't invent something that didn't exist.
Right.
But all the IT companies out there have a 10 or 25 user minimum. So essentially, it's like, yeah, sorry, you're too small. Or if you want, you can pay $1,800 a month, even if
Right.
you're three people, and then we'll give it to you, which that doesn't make financial sense. So I went out and I was like, hey, how can I make all these security solutions accessible, turnkey at an affordable price? If a solo was like, hey, I take security seriously. I want to get all these security solutions you've discussed. How can I do it in a quick, easy way? And so that's where Bobaguard, was born. So we've kind of streamlined the setup, the configuration. We made it as easy as possible for the end user, for the client, and we made it really cheap as well. So there's really nothing else out there for solo and small firms.
That's awesome. You can tell your passion for this issue and that people need to be taking it serious. And glad you put something together because I think the smaller businesses. It's hard. It gets expensive, and like you said, you can't even get some of this stuff without going through a provider because they want like 50 to 100 licenses, and we've got like 7 or whatever, right? So. Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. They don't know where to start. And then, if you're not comfortable and confident, you're not going to make a decision.
Right. So we're running out of time on Facebook Live today, though. And so, I've got a lot more questions. So, I definitely want to hear, you've talked about some of the challenges you've actually seen with law firms and cybersecurity and actually ways that they can overcome some of these challenges. So I wanted to talk more about that in addition to, just keep on going on some of this conversation. But if you'll stick around, we can keep on going and put that up on YouTube. That's great. Before we wrap up, though, Tom, where can people connect with you online?
So if they go to bobaguard.com/GNGF 10, that's 10. We've got kind of a security checklist for lawyers that we put together that's really helpful, gives some really actionable kind of guidance on where they can get started with some of this.
Awesome.
So that's a
Awesome.
good place to start.
We can throw that in the chat, right? So we'll put that in the chat, and let's check that in the chat. Check out the get that security checklist there. And Tom, just one moment. I'll be right back. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. And of course, be sure to like and subscribe to our Facebook page so you get notified when our next episode goes live. Of course, we have new interviews about law firm marketing and the business side of running your firm here every other Wednesday. And don't forget to use the link in the chat to check out the Building a Better Legal Lead Funnel workshop. We got a replay and download for the free lead funnel workbook, all brought to you by the Legal Marketing Academy by GNGF. We're going to keep going here in the GNGF studios. You can watch the full extended interview with Tom Labat this Friday over on our YouTube channel. We'll be diving into more detail about some of the challenges Tom has seen law firms struggle with when it comes to managing their cybersecurity and how you can overcome those challenges. We'll see you then. Tom, thanks for sticking with me. We got a lot more questions.
Bring them on.
All right. So, in helping law firms with technology over the years, right? I mean, you've been doing this for a while. What have you seen as the biggest misconceptions that lawyers really have around cybersecurity? Maybe even over the last 5 years and more recently.
I think the biggest one is just denial. Just thinking it's not going to happen to me. And again, for me, I come from the Mac world where it's even more pervasive and it's even worse. And for 15 years, I've been kind of standing on the drum saying, hey, just because you use Macs does not mean you don't have to worry about cybersecurity. Because that's a very strong kind of deeply rooted belief. Right. We went to Mac, so we didn't have to worry about viruses. Right. And in my early years, right, 2006, 2007, I used to, puff out my chest and say, hey, none of my clients use viruses because we're Macs and we don't get them. Right. But now we've had tons of clients get malware all the time. Right. There are more and more viruses out there, that are trying to, affect Macs, and there's security vulnerabilities. So, coming from the Mac side, I've been kind of trying to re-educate people saying, hey, because again, the threat vector today is not what it was 10 years ago, right? Now there's so many things that, your IT department has no control over, right? Like 40% of people reuse their same password for personal and work accounts. So all of a sudden that Netflix data breach that you're like, I don't care if, Susie, her email for Netflix got hacked. But then when a cyber criminal can say, hey, I can see where Susie works. I can reverse engineer her email address at GNGF. Let me get her email address and see if the password that we got from Netflix works for her, right? So, simple things like that. You have no control. You've got an awesome firewall and you spend $10,000 on it and you've got everything locked down. They're still going to get into your accounts that way, right? So, again, no one is safe and it can happen to anyone. We had, I had read a notice of a data breach that was filed in California by a lawyer. I kind of reverse engineered and put the pieces together, and she was a solo lawyer, family law. And I looked on the dark web. We have a tool that can scan the dark web to see if there's credentials, under her domain. And there was a single hit. And that hit went public on the dark web 2 weeks before when she was actually breached that she pointed to in the data breach, right? Her password was Shannon, which was just her first name, all lowercase for my case. And, so just sloppy mistakes, right? It's not going to happen to me. I don't have to worry about it, right? Just like, seatbelts were not the norm, back in the 80s. But now it's like, how often do you really have an argument or discussion about, hey, you should wear your seatbelt? You just wear your seatbelt, And we're still at that point where it's like, nah, I don't need to wear a seatbelt. It's not. I'll be fine. I'm not going to get in an accident. So I think denial is the thing. Just, it's not going to happen to me because I'm here, because I'm this size, because I practice this type of law.
And I think you mentioned, in the earlier portion we were on Facebook, that, it's not even that it's a virus sometimes or the malware, but like people just emailing and getting really smart about stuff. And, like that's in their Chrome browser anyways, so like a bad plugin is bad enough just with the virus and stuff, but just like a bad actor or somebody, it's not even a bad actor, right? Somebody just making a simple mistake. I mean, they're very good at what they do. I mean, it like you said, like some of these things, people are lucky that they question it, but most of the time, one of the examples you gave, like, I probably would open that document, right? I thought it was from the opposing counsel. So that like stuff like that, where it's not the user getting hacked per se from like a virus and those kind of things, but it's just a really smart email, phishing attack. I mean, that's where I think it's interesting, the differences, right? The misconception of, like I have a Mac, I have viruses, and we talk about passwords a lot, and so people should know, but there's a lot of other ways these things are happening.
Yeah. The podcast host that got hacked, the way it happened to him, he got an email from a friend of his who's a lawyer. Email signature was exactly the same. He clicked on the link, went to the website, looked exactly the same, and he fell for it. So you put your kind of sense of protection down because there's these familiar things. He went back and looked at it, and he saw the from email was a different domain, right? But it said his friend's name, had the signature, so it's like, your mind is trying to process so much information. It's like, I know this, I know this, I know that, so it's trusted. Right. And again, they're tapping into this. We had one of our clients forward us an email. And again, it was a perfect replication of their homepage. I'm talking the responsive elements on the web page were recreated. Right. You look at the domain, it's a spark.adobe something else. Right. But all signs point to this can be trusted. Yeah. This is legit. And it's getting more and more and more advanced. And it's just going to keep advancing. It's not going to, they're not going to be like, okay, well, we took it far enough. Let's go back and start writing in broken English and crappy logo, replications again.
Yeah.
They're never going back.
Gone are the days of falling for the prince in Africa with a bunch of gold, right? I mean, it's like, those still come across and they're just kind of funny now, right? But like the thing is the people that are super targeted to be worried about. And you mentioned, like one of your layers, right? It's just backups. So I think it's interesting, right? You've talked before about sometimes it's having things in place from a security protection is like a backup, because what you're really doing is protecting yourself from an accident from one of your users, right? At least you have the backup, right?
Yeah, it's really security. It's insurance, right? The response, if and when something happens, is, well, that's okay. I'm covered. I planned for this, right? And so if you have a backup of your 365 or G Suite data, and you find out 6 months later an employee, maybe an employee let go and they tried to blow stuff up. Most of the time, most data loss is accidental. It's an employee that accidentally deletes the wrong folder, and you don't realize until 5 months later when you go to grab the folder, right? So that's just something good to have in place. But then, you look at password hygiene. Most people still use 3 passwords. If you do not use a password manager, you have weak passwords. Right? Yeah. Guaranteed. 97% of people that don't use a password manager have weak passwords. They have 3. They have the one they always used. They have the one that, one piece software said, hey, you can't use that one. It's not secure enough. So they said,
they added some numbers in a special character, right?
I'm going to add a 1 at the end. Okay. And then the bank says, nope, that one's not secure enough. You say, oh, okay, well, I'll put an exclamation after the 1. Now I'm secure, right? We are so predictable. The old rule that you had to reset your passwords every 90 days, right? Yeah. Especially in enterprises, that was, for 20, 30 years, that's what we were all taught. NIST, the National Institute of Safety and Technology, is the association, the government authority that gave us that advice. So 4 years ago, they came out and they said, hey, that advice we gave you? Yeah, it's actually horrible advice. Don't do that. Stop. So what we recommend now is to only change your password if you know it's been compromised.
But have a very secure password though, right?
Yeah, use a secure password, obviously. But the problem with their advice is that's all they said. The next logical question is, okay, well, how do I know if my password's been compromised? Do I wait to get hacked and find out that way, right? And so that's where another security layer that we recommend, dark web scanning, comes in. So when the data breaches occur that you read about on headlines and the ones you never hear about, the criminals don't get paid when they breach and get access to the user credentials and passwords and
Right.
emails. They get paid when they go on the dark web, the Amazon for criminals, and then say, hey, I've got 10 million Netflix, user IDs and passwords. Who wants to buy them? And then people pick and choose. They say, hey, I'll take 10 million from Chase, I'll take 1 million of the Netflix, and why don't you give me 3 million from Yahoo as well? And then they have the data and they can go to work, right? So dark web scanning is a really important piece of your kind of tool set, in my mind, because it's continually scanning, these databases. And so as soon as a hit comes up under your domain at gngf.com, for example, you get notified and you can see if that's a password that you're currently using or if that individual on your team is still
Yep.
using. And then you say, hey, change your password.
Yeah, and I've seen. I mean, some of the password managers have built some lightweight stuff of that in, right? I mean, I've gotten noticed, not before, but yeah. You mentioned that the password managers and tracking, who's using what passwords, and we have somebody in the company who's responsible for that here, and he will send out an update of everybody's kind of score, about once a quarter or so, and kind of like, it's almost a little bit of shaming, right? It's like, hey, 50% of your passwords are the same. Like that's not a good score, and so yeah, we've worked hard on a lot of education here on that because it is. I mean, or what's the I've seen it comes out like once a year, whatever, where they scan the dark web and they pull all these passwords and they come up with the most common passwords that people use, like the top 20 common passwords, and it's like the word password is still like one of the common, or like Batman, I think was in there, like.
Yeah, password 1 2 3 4. Again, we're your birthdays, your
Right.
kids' names, your pets, right? All information that can be found online. But that's a whole other rabbit hole to
So
not
the specific to the law firms, right? Like, so what are the challenges that they face doing this themselves that you've seen? They're trying to reduce this risk, right? They don't want to be one of the 29%. But what are the, like, if you're going out there and saying, all right, I need to roll up my sleeves and go do some of these things, and you're starting to look at these layers, and maybe you're doing some Google searches, and what are the challenges that you've seen firsthand of, like, either whether it's mistakes people made or just too hard to really implement?
Yeah, I think for focusing on kind of the 10 and under, right? 10 users or less, right? Especially those firms, the biggest issues, lack of time, lack of certainty, right? And lack of implementation skills.
Okay.
And so what that means, first off, lack of time, right? Every solo and small firm lawyer is an entrepreneur. They're wearing 12 different hats. What hat gets the attention? The one that's on fire, right? You can get behind on your books for 3 months, right? And then you get caught up one weekend, and that's okay. But if you get behind and you don't address your cybersecurity needs and threats, and you have a data breach, you're in a world of pain, right? So, but the problem is they don't have the time to properly do it. If and when they do, they go, okay, like I said before, they Google cybersecurity solutions, they get 347 million hits, right? The cybersecurity is flooded with solutions. And so what do I need? Where do I start, right? What's overkill? How much is too much, right? What's adequate for my needs as a solo and small firm lawyer? And that's really hard to find because there's no companies out there making a product for solo and small firm lawyers, right? So the market's flooded with solutions. It makes it really, hard to, again, like I talked earlier on the previous video, find out what are the tools that you need, and then, what is the best tool for that, that you can get. And then the last issue is even if they figure those out, how do they implement them? They need to study, they need to research, they need to do the rollout, they need to train their team, right? All things they don't have the time for. And then when you kind of move upstream a little bit more into firms with, kind of 10 to 30 users, which I've realized there's a huge need there as well, where at first I didn't think that was going to be the case. But there's a ton of firms that don't have a full-time in-house
Right.
IT person. You've got an office manager that's in charge of the technology, which includes cybersecurity and all their other hats, right? And so the challenge they run into, again, is the same one. They might have an hourly IT person they use when they have stuff that comes up, but 16 years ago, I was an hourly IT consultant, and it's nearly impossible to stay current, right? Essentially, you're getting paid hourly, you're filling your days with billable hours, you're doing all the other stuff at night, just like lawyers might be doing, right? And it becomes really difficult to become a cybersecurity expert. So they don't have those solutions, or they have slapstick ideas, right? Even if you have an in-house IT person, in a kind of 20 to 50 user firm, they usually end up being glorified firefighters, and that's not meant as a slight. It's just factual. They're just trying to solve everyone's issues as they come up, and they don't have enough time open to them to say, "Hey, what are the best cybersecurity solutions out there?" Right? Again, they've got to research, they've got to find them, they've got to test them out, and then roll them, and it's really difficult. It's really just a lack of clarity that holds people back from kind of implementing all these, and the time. And the third biggest one is just cost, right? For users with 10 and less, 10 users or less, or even 15 users or less, they're usually unable to get access to these solutions, right? If they reach out to an IT company like my other company, Glomac IT, and they say, "Hey, I want to get set up. I have these needs. I want to get the security." Well, we say, "Sorry, we have a 10 user minimum. It's, 26.50 a month on up." Right. So they're
Right.
priced out. We have the occasional client, we have one client that's like, "Hey, I don't care what it costs. I have these giant corporations and clients, and I got to make sure we do everything right. I'll pay that." I did my best to talk her out of it, but she wanted to, so I let it happen. But for most people, that doesn't
Right.
make sense. It's not adequate for their needs to pay a giant amount just to get access to that.
And
So
so, and I'm not trying to make a commercial for you here, but like, that's why you kind of said, I mean, you still have Global Mac IT and everything, but this is why Bobaguard was created, right? It's like you've found a way to slice some of these things off, or you maybe buy in bulk and you can pull some things. You have your training. Walk me through a little bit of how Bobaguard addresses some of those challenges.
yeah, so when I looked at the market and I realized that 49% of private practicing lawyers are solos. Another 13% of the market are in firms with 2 to 5 lawyers. So essentially, 63% of lawyers are unable to get access to the right cybersecurity solutions that they need to protect their firms, right? And so, it's kind of like the access to justice, right? 80% of low income, earners can't afford, a lawyer, right? And so it's a similar parallel, but for lawyers. And so, okay, how can they get access? And so what we did with Bobaguard, we stripped out all the labor, that goes along with having an IT service. We said, "Hey, what if we can just help them implement, 8 security layers to give them a huge amount of protection in the absolute minimum amount of their time." And so we actually set it up so it takes 66 minutes to get everything set up. So once they sign up, it's a 6-minute intake form. Then our team preps, purchases the licenses, configures the cybersecurity training and everything. And then the remaining steps, like the admin kind of, more techie things, instead of asking them to do it themselves, say, "Hey, go into the 365 admin portal and make these changes," which most people will not want to do. We do all that on a 60-minute Zoom call with them where we activate screen sharing. So they just log in and we take over and we configure everything. And at the end of that 60-minute call, all of the 8 security layers are active. So we've taken out, what we've done is curated first defined all the tools. Then we spent, tens of thousands of dollars and hours over the past 10 years refining and finding the best solutions. And what's cool about it is it's not static. We get to change it. If we find something that's better, that's radically better than the current solution we have in, tool number, slot number 7, we can swap that out for something better. And our clients just get better and better service over time. We actually swapped out 2 different solutions
Oh,
this
okay.
year.
And then everybody
So
gets that, right?
yeah,
So instead of like
yeah,
being stuck with, like the whatever month license you had to sign up with as one firm, they're able to just get the best new solution you implement. I want to
yeah.
switch gears on for 1 second, and just kind of talk about because cloud technology, and from you seeing 16 years, like that wasn't there, right? And then now we move forward
Mhm.
and we got you mentioned how many different cloud technologies we've talked about even on this call, from practice management to like document management to like password managers to heck,
Mhm.
Google and Office 365, right? You don't have servers in your office
Yeah,
anymore running mail, right? So
yeah.
what do you think, or do you even think it's been a benefit, right? For this simplified technology?
Yeah, I think it's been massive. The adoption of the cloud, it was really slow at first. I remember when Clio and Rocket Matter first came out in 2007, and it was really a slow kind of, embracing. There was still that fear of the cloud and people looking up in the sky. Is that my data? And is it safe? Is it secure? And all these things. And so we're well over that hump. And so in doing that, I mean, 10 years ago, if you wanted to go out and set up your own firm, you had to get an IT guy. You had to buy hardware to get a
Right.
server to run Exchange in your office, right? All legal software was sold with upfront
Right.
licensing, right? Thousands of dollars per license upfront. So the cost to open your practice 10 years ago were probably, I mean, 10 to 100 times what they are today. I can say that confidently. Nowadays, in one afternoon, you can set up 365, case management, file storage, all that stuff, and a lot of them give you a free 30-day trial, and then it's, 10 to 50 bucks per user per software. So it's a fraction of what it was. So lawyers are spending less than they ever have on IT services, and a lot more of them. Actually, 40% of law firms are now turning to internal IT support. So they're troubleshooting their own problems, right? And this is really great. But as the '80s philosopher of the band Poison, Bret Michaels, said, every rose has its thorn. And so kind of the flip side, in my mind, of this simplification with technology, adoption, is the complexity that was introduced with cybersecurity threats, right? Cybersecurity threats 10 years ago, what you were worried about was
Right.
getting viruses, right? Now the threats are completely different, right? The barriers to entry are completely different. If you're on a Mac or a PC, you're not much safer if you're a Mac user today than a Windows user. Yeah, you don't get the viruses and ransomware, but getting phished, getting your email account and your files and case management, all those stuff, all those things, you can get just as easily breached on a Mac as on a PC because it comes down to credential. And if someone can get, spear phished and someone can get access to your accounts, those are all on the web. It doesn't matter if you're on a Mac or a PC.
So it's
So
been huge, but it's brought new dangers.
yes, so good progress, but and again, how many, if you look at the insurance policies you
Yeah.
carry today versus 10 years ago, they're different, right? They're evolving. Right? In the past, you didn't need a cybersecurity insurance policy. Now you
Yes.
need one. Year over year for the past 4 years, there's been a 30% increase in adoption and use of cyber insurance policies. It's quickly becoming kind of a staple that, like, hey, you need a cyber insurance policy, and it's almost reckless not to have one because it's not a matter of will you ever get breached. It's a matter of when it's going to happen,
Yeah.
sadly.
I,
And so,
I've I'm a lot of entrepreneur circles and do a lot of things with different groups as you do. And I personally know multiple, uh, businesses that have utilized their cyber security insurance because, whether it was a phishing or, like again, usually somebody did something wrong, innocently, but wrong. And, like they had to implement it. And I mean, they did work. I mean, like they said, they had great success with their insurance policy. A couple were ransomwares that they had to pay, but I mean, you said 1 out of 3 almost law firms, it's no different for other business owners. So yeah, maybe you need to take Bobaguard to lots of people that are 20 and under, not just law firms there, Tom.
yeah. Well, law firm is, that's the market I've been in. So, the Bobaguard solution itself is not unique only for lawyers. So we definitely have the intent eventually to go into different verticals. And we've had a few clients sign up just through word of mouth, like, hey, my friend, he's not a lawyer, but he's really interested. Can he sign up? And, we're not saying no, we're not turning him away. So yeah, cybersecurity insurance is an important factor as well, something that you need, and we've actually built that into
Oh, that's
Bobaguard as
awesome.
well. And so one of the problems with cybersecurity insurance is to get one, you need to fill out a very scary looking document. Right? Do you have all these things that really advanced, complex kind of IT questions? That's over the head of most people. And so that's a cool thing with Bobaguard. We're able to get a cyber insurance policy that you get, the day you sign up, it goes active the next day, and there's no application process. So it's
Oh,
really
that's really
cool.
cool. Oh, yeah, I guess because you guys know
And
all the
and
layers. You know all the answers to those questions because you're implementing it. That makes a lot of sense. I didn't know that.
yeah. And the reason this insurance provider is able to do this is they specialize. So they only provide cyber insurance policies to companies like ours who sell an all-in-one kind of
Hmm.
security stack. So they know that any client that gets this is, 80% ahead of the average business, right? In terms of taking proactive measures to protect themselves. So it's kind of a win-win. They're able to lower their cost and they know their incidence rate is far lower than, the average pool of businesses. So it makes it easy. Again, it's just one thing checked off. It's like, okay, how many things can we put into place? Check off, get peace of mind. We're going to do everything we can to lower the risk of getting breached, but we can never go out there and say, hey, 100% guarantee you will never get breached,
Right.
right? That's impossible. You can have the safest car in the world, like a Tesla, that's got the highest safety rating ever, but there's no
Right.
100%.
Right. Well,
So
I think let's leave it on that. There is no 100% guarantee, and I think you said it earlier.
yeah,
Sometimes it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So have all the things in place as well. But thanks for joining me today. If somebody made it this far, they got a ton of nuggets that they didn't get the first half. So again, thank you for joining me. And that you had given a link earlier. We can put it in the chat here as well. We'll put it in the show notes. But what was the link for security checklist?
yes, they can go to bobaguard.com/GNGF10. That's the number
Awesome.
10.
Again, Tom, thanks for joining me and sticking around for so long. And what a great topic. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Mark.
Hey, what's up? I'm Josh. Thanks so much for joining us. If you feel like you learned something today, think of how beneficial it would be to chat with myself or another one of our marketing consultants one-on-one. Go ahead and visit our website to schedule your free consultation. It only takes a minute.